Hey folks, this is Patrick Clark. This is video number 3, a primer on Bridges to Excellence with Meridios Ltd. My name is Patrick Clark, and I'm going to jump right into this one because we got a lot to cover. So, in video 3, I want to talk about the description of the players that are involved in this process and the visual representation of how this process actually works. Let's get started. Who's involved in an automatic BTE submission? This is a great question. There are many people involved in this, but the first group of people involved in this are the providers. They need to be giving good clinical quality care, and they need to be documenting that in a way that it can be pulled out of an electronic system that's in there as discrete data. So really, it can't be undersold in the fact that we really are, this is a process of scoring providers and looking through how well they're actually providing care based on these standards. And so they need to be giving good quality care. That typically is not an issue with a lot of the providers in the United States. So the next piece to this would be the data aggregator, the person or the group of people that are putting this data together in such a way that it can be formatted and sort of received by the PAO, which in this case is CE City. The data aggregator can bring a lot of benefit to the table. One of the big things that we like to do as the data aggregator is give you the ability or provide you with the tools to not only just improve, but identify and resolve gaps in care. We don't really just want you to do well, we want you to thrive in this environment. And so that's why we're really trying to work with providers in order to give them the tools to succeed. Once the data aggregator on a quarterly basis has put this file together, they're handing it off to the PAO, the Performance Assessment Organization. In this case, it's CE City. The PAO will process and score data aggregation files on a quarterly basis. They're only going to report successful submissions and their levels to BTE. So that's an important point. If for one reason or another a provider does not successfully submit, the PAO is not sending their information on to HCI3 onto BTE. Once BTE gets the list of providers who has successfully submitted and what their level of submission is, whether it be level 1, level 2, level 3, then they are publishing that on their website, and they're also distributing that list to payers and partners who are using that for incentives. Each payer, in this case, will be different in how they incentivize and reward recognized providers. So with that said, I want to kind of give you a visual representation of how this process works. And so I'm just going to kind of walk down through, again, visually how this might look. First thing that needs to happen at the very top of this process, again, is the providers giving excellent clinical quality care. Once they've provided good clinical quality care and they're storing it in an EHR, something that they can actually pull it back out of, you can work with a data aggregator. In this case, I'm going to give the example of Meridios because that's who I represent. And the data aggregator is going to create the file, or in this case, many files for us, especially if you're doing more than one type of recognition, whether it be diabetes or cardiac care. We're going to generate several files with the appropriate information in it. We're also going to make sure that those files are formatted in the way that they're supposed to be formatted, and on a quarterly basis, we're sending that information to the PAO. Currently, the PAO for this process is CE City, and so what CE City is going to do in this process is they are going to receive that file on a quarterly basis, and they are going to score that file for the providers that are out there. And there's obviously 3 levels of scoring, or 3 levels of recognition that you can receive on any given program. Then the PAO is going to report successful submissions down to Bridges to Excellence for each organization that they're working with. Again, key point here, they're reporting successful submissions. So if a provider does not successfully submit, the PAO is not going to hand that information off to Bridges to Excellence. BTE is then going to aggregate that information together on all the providers that have successfully submitted and are currently recognized, and they're going to pass that information down to insurance carriers or any other kind of partner that they might have in this process. In this case, I'm going to use the example of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas just to give you a general sense as to how this would work in Texas. Once the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas gets that information, they're actually going to generate a file for that provider that is looking for biometric information for the provider and the patients that they attribute to that provider. Now, in this case, if you're working with Meridios, we're going to work to help you with that file. We're actually going to work on that file and ensure that it's got the right information in it, and then we're going to ship that file back to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas with your involvement. So once they have that information, then you can generate, they'll give you permission to generate a claim that you can then send to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. That will actually, that's how your bonus dollars are going to be paid out, is through this claim process when you submit it per patient that is eligible for you to receive incentive. So that is the example of how Blue Cross Blue Shield might do it of Texas. But again, there are other examples and other ways that this process might work in different states. This is just a visual example of that. So what we've talked about in this video is not only did we talk about a visual representation of how this process might work, but we also talked more explicitly about the players involved in this process, whether it be providers, data aggregators, performance assessment organization, BTE themselves, or the partners and payers that are out there. I've really appreciated this time. I hope you've learned a lot from this video. My name is Patrick Clark. I'm the CEO of Meridios, and we will be looking forward to doing video number 4 when we get done with this one. Thanks.